I want to thank you guys for coming to the channel, and it will be interesting for you guys to watch me grow as I do this work. So as we paint the story of Opush, remember he is the sky snake, or the Milky Way, and he gives the people a lightning bolt, or he gives them the gift of fire. Do you remember that? So what we're going to do is the Milky Way is made up of what? Planets and meteors and I don't know what else, but it's space. And I've been on a space theme this whole summer and I don't know why. Well, first thing we're going to do is, if you have a pencil or pen, remember I showed you that quick, I have the pen. Alright, so here's the pen. It's ink and it's no problem, but pencil would be best. If you have these watercolor pencils, I would suggest not using them because they end up giving like little chunks in your watercolors, because it's going to be a lot of water, which is another thing that we need to have. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually use that color I told you about. Boop, 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 boop. Right there. And you guys let me know. I'm going to do two of these paintings. One as I narrate and one without narration. And I want you guys to tell me which one you like. But in the beginning, oh, you can't see that, can you? And it looks purple. In the beginning, we're going to use we're going to try this narration. So I've got this orange-ish. Gosh, you can barely see that. I wonder if this makes it better, or if that makes it worse. Ah, look at that. You can see it now. So maybe it'll be better if I do this. So all I'm doing is we call this a wash, which is a lot of water and some paint together. And we're going to do that first. You might be asking, well, why don't we draw first? We're kind of creating the backdrop of this negative painting. So if you're used to drawing and coloring in the lines, which is perfect way of painting, this is just almost the opposite of that. And here we go. And I'm learning that there's a whole bunch of tools that I need to make these videos. And the other thing I would like, if you guys can actually, in the comments, add, if you had a soundtrack to what you were painting, what music would you be listening to while you're painting? Some of you probably are listening to music. What music would you like me to play? So can you see that? It's actually pink all over, but I don't know if you can see all of the pink. I don't want to make it dark. That's another thing. I don't want to make it dark. I want to put paint all over, but I don't want to make it dark. And guess what we got to do now? We're going to wait for this to dry. While I wait for this to dry, here's what I want to show you. I'm going to put this away. And some of you just might be doing it anyway. It's like, that's okay, I'm not buying any paper. I'm going to use paper from my computer. I just want to show you what happens when we wet it. Most Xerox paper. Xerox, you can see how old I am. Most copy paper. I want you to see what's happening. Is it moving? It's just very wet. I don't know. I don't really like it that much. This one isn't as bad as... Don't get it from Dollar Tree. I love Dollar Tree. Love you, Dollar Tree. But don't get any paper from there. I've done that before. You can use it to make more paper if you like, or wrapping paper. So that's what we're doing here. So let me finish this, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what copy paper I bought from the office store, but it's not as horrible as I thought it was going to be. So this would be a less expensive way, because the cardstock and the watercolor paper is a little more expensive, but it's not warbling up as bad as I thought. But once I start putting that other paint on it, I know it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to build up the layers of paint. How have we been doing? All right. This is almost dry because it's so light. And just for the purposes of this video, are we focusing here? What's going on here? Yeah. It is looking, we're doing it a wide shot. But maybe I'm going to turn it this way because we're really working the planets all the way down, and at some point we're going to put a lightning bolt in there. So yeah, let me do that for you. So I'm going to make a couple planets round. Maybe these are galaxies, and if I get that wrong with science wrong, I'm in trouble. Or maybe it's a spaceship. Some of them are tiny. Some of them are big. And then there's that lightning bolt. It's going down. Oops, it's almost like making a Z. A couple of Z's. Do you guys see that? Boop. I made a mistake. And you know what we do with mistakes? We're going to keep them in. We're not going to get another piece of paper. We're not going to crumble this one up. We're just going to figure it out. So now, am I done? No, guess what I got to do? Now, I'm going to use some of those other colors that I talked to you about to create a space. Alright, so you guys choose purple or blue. Can you even see that well? We are going to have to do something. Well, I am using the purple first. And I'm still using this wide brush. And I'm going to start putting that color on top. And what's going to happen is we're not just, it's a little harder to do with, no, I'm lying. It's not that hard to do. But with watercolors, what's going to happen is you're going to tend to blend some of these colors. So just make sure it's a darker color. And do you see how I am not painting in the shapes I created, the planets I created? I'm painting around them. And that's why it's called a negative painting. We're kind of leaving the negative space open. And the negative space is the space around a shape. Don't forget that. The math/art idea. Negative space. Positive space would be what? Put it in the comments. If negative space is painting outside the shapes, what's positive space? The funny thing is we don't really use that term in the art world that often, but still, kind of a neat thing. And this is where the other paintbrushes come in, when we have these small details that we have to go through. And yes, if you have better brushes, go ahead and use your better brushes because you see how much work I'm doing here. But that's okay. I'm using, this is more of an acrylic brush. And you can see it doesn't give when it gets wet that much. So I have to do a lot of the work. Whereas a watercolor brush holds the paint, also holds the water so you don't have to push it around so much. Like my hand's starting to ache. So I've got some dark purple over here if you guys can see that. And I want to make it all just a little, it blended a little too much, so I'm going to make sure I get some more dark colors around here. Make it a little darker. Then, after I finish, and yes, I'm getting a little sloppy. If you want to be sloppy, be sloppy. Because it's fun. Alright, here we go. Now, some things I wanted to tell you guys while we're waiting for it to dry. And you can see around this little one, I'm going to have to use my smaller brush to get the paint around there. To move the paint around the negative space. I cheated. If you want to use a Q-tip to move water around, that's an excellent idea. If you want to get messy, please use your fingers. So you know you're getting these little clumps. That's from not great brushes, but that's okay, because we can still make great art. Just going back in here. Sometimes I want to be neat, sometimes I want to be messy. Remember that mistake I had up here? Nobody cares now at this point. I used that negative space to make a triangle. Did you see that? Alright. Water. And I'm not too worried about it, because guess what? After this dries, what am I going to do? I'm going to put more shapes. So I'm going to let it dry. And let's talk about how you're feeling. How are your hands feeling? Are they achy? Were you able to even use your hands during this part of the painting? Some things you can do, and I tried to bring some things for us, but I didn't really get it all together. A lot of us have been taught how to hold a brush. But who says we can't hold it like this if it's more comfortable? Do you see how I'm holding it? Maybe that's too tight. That might be, but I mean, you can hold a brush like this if you need to. If it's too small and your fingers are it's just too much, you can wrap something around the brush and then tape it around the brush. I'm using paper. See this paper? People think, oh, I know, we're in COVID. Why are you using the toilet paper? But you could wrap something around the brush, and then you could tape it like that. And if you need to use that way, you can do that. You can also make it as large as you can. You can do this with tape. You could do this with like curlers, foam curlers. And if you like, I will put something in the link for that. Of course, this should be taped. And it's just another way of painting. Alright. You could also try to figure out how to make a handle, and maybe that'll be another video. How to create your own adaptive tools. What do you think? Ring the bell. I don't know what the names are, but just let me know if you'd like to see a video on adaptive tools. DIY. Okay. I think it's dry. Doesn't take long. You could have fast forwarded, and we can do that throughout. You can fast forward if you like. Still some wet spots in there, and you'll probably see what's going to happen when I use my pen. There might be a little bleeding involved. Not of my hands. Right down here. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to make some more planets. See that one? It's going to be purple. Purple right there. Make another little one. Another big one. Maybe put a big one here. Whoops. And maybe a mid-sized one here. You could also put stars. And if you feel like, you know what, my circles aren't that great, Javon, you can also trace circles, okay? Don't forget, you can trace, look at my water bottle. Boom. I'm going to trace it right there. Don't let anything stop you. Boom. Alright. So you know what it do. What I'm going to do is take that purple I had. Now I'm in the mid-size range here. And you guys don't have to watch all this if you don't want to. But I'm going to go ahead. And now I'm going to be even darker. And again, I'm going in the, do you remember what it's called? Negative space. We're getting darker and darker.